Hi, everyone. How are you doing? I am in the process of getting things going here. Thank you so much for tuning in this week for the plant-based cooking. I'm so excited to be back. I am going to, like I said, start, getting things moving and grooving here. I'm going to hang out for a little bit. And so, let me get the vegetable broth. I'm actually adding in the vegetable broth for the actual curry. So we're doing the tofu curry with mustard greens. It's kind of like a stew, but we'll talk more about it as we get going. But let me get the vegetable broth going in the actual pot here, and then we'll get moving. I hope you all are doing well, and I hope this month is treating you well, and you are doing awesome things and learning different things about Black history. Um, I have actually just been having a wonderful time interviewing people for the podcast and learning so many different things. So it's been an amazing experience, let me tell you. I hope you guys, if you haven't, I hope you've had the opportunity to start listening to the different episodes for this month and just in general. This week, I actually interviewed my childhood neighbor, Tamara J. Madison. We had such an amazing conversation. And so I hope you guys get a chance to listen to that conversation because it just brought back a lot of memories. I got to learn a lot of things about her that I didn't know was happening in her life. And so I hope you guys take a chance to listen to that actual episode. So, hey guys that joined, hello. So, like I said, tonight we are making the tofu curry with mustard greens. This actual dish, rather, I have to give credit to my niece. She gave me this cookbook. It's called Afro Vegan. And so, in this cookbook, we are making the tofu curry. I'm trying to bring it closer enough so you can see it here. And this particular dish, the author of this book, his name is Bryant Terry, and he actually was inspired to make this. It's a Tanzanian dish, and it's a traditional fish curry dish, but he's making it vegan. And so our quote unquote fish in this dish will be tofu. So I'm really excited about that. Oh, you have the book as well. And listen, I love mustard greens. I grew up on mustard and turnip greens. A lot of people from the South and from where I'm from in Indiana and Evansville, it is a staple. Not tofu, mustard greens and turnips, you mix them together. And those are the greens that I grew up on. I didn't really learn about collard greens and all that stuff until later on I met other people because we always ate mustard mustard and turnip greens. So, like I said, I like collard greens, but this is a new, it's a new actual green that I was exposed to later on in life. But I still like them; they're good. So, like I said, I'm getting the broth going right now. We're heating up the broth, and so I actually added in. I don't know if you guys can see it over here. Let me bring this camera a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. So this is the broth that's actually going. I used this company, if you can see it. My wife was awesome. She purchased a lot of the ingredients for me because I've been working nonstop. And so this is the company that we're using tonight. It's called Imagine, the vegetable broth. And so far I've added in two of these actual containers so far. And I'm going to let them start getting hot. Okay. Also, oh, hey, babe. Hi, honey. How are you? So that's Chris, my wife. Hello. So you guys are aware, we have a lot of ingredients that we're working with tonight. So what I'm going to do, just so you're not completely, like, what is she doing? How is she adding things? I haven't chopped the mustard greens yet. So for those who've never seen a mustard green, I want to show you what it looks like. And I wanted to wait to actually chop them so you can see. They're kind of curly in appearance. So this is what a mustard green looks like. I've actually pulled the stem off. I'm not a big stem person. That's not my jam by any means. So I've pulled those off. But I'm going to be referring sometimes to the actual book here tonight because, like I said, this is a new recipe for me. And I'm excited to, one, try it, and then two, share how it tastes with you all, as I always do on the next day. One fun ingredient, now this actual recipe calls for chunky peanut butter. I have Skippy Natural Creamy, so we'll be using creamy peanut butter tonight. But for those who want the with the chunky, definitely get a chunky peanut butter. I would encourage you to get like a natural based peanut butter. Sometimes I will say with the natural peanut butter, you do have to mix it. The oil does sit on top. If you don't mix it, it'll be really hard if you just take off the oil on top and just keep using the, dipping the peanut butter. That way, over time, it just gets really grainy and it's not palatable, especially if you're trying to make a peanut butter sandwich. If you have kids or something like that, not a good look. So I wanted to point that particular ingredient out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna roughly chop these mustard greens, and it can be to your liking. Like in the actual recipe, it called for like really small actual pieces of the mustard greens. So, and traditionally when you're cooking greens, if you've never cooked greens, everybody kind of does it different. I'm a person that likes to kind of get my greens a little, not too big in terms of like the leaf. You want to have some smaller pieces. You don't want to like pull up and have like a huge leaf. So you want to make sure they're as small as possible. Another cool way to do it is, especially with collard greens, what I've always done is I've rolled them up. Like I've rolled a few of the actual greens together, right? And then cut it in half. So I make a roll, cut that in half, and then make a chop with the roll. And that makes the actual greens a lot smaller, and you're able to, not have to worry about having a huge leaf when you're pulling out greens to serve to individuals. Oh, I'm dropping leaves there. I wanted to get these greens going because it takes about 20 minutes, it said in the recipe, for these mustard greens to cook. So I wanted to get them going so they have some time to do their thing. Traditionally with greens, especially with Black people, everybody has their way of doing it. And depending on the person, they'll tell you how they'll make their particular greens. I grew up not eating pork. A lot of people do add pork to their actual, let me turn this down a bit. If you can see it, the broth is pretty hot here, if you can see. So we're ready to go with the broth. But like I was saying, when people make greens, particularly when you're going to soul food places, a lot of people have stepped away from the pork. A lot of the smoky pork pieces of meat. So I know like ham hocks was a thing to actually add to greens. It brought a lot of flavor. But what a lot of people are adding now is called smoked turkey. And that really brings a lot of flavor to the greens as well. So I'm just going to add the mustard greens. For myself, so you're saying, okay, but this is a plant-based situation here, Alicia. What would you do when you make greens? When I make greens, surprisingly, what I do is I add a lot of garlic, a lot of fresh garlic, not the minced garlic that you get in the can or in the glass jars rather. That for some reason, because I believe because it's been jarred for so long, it loses its potency. So it's not the best option, but I use fresh garlic when I'm actually making greens. And like I said, normally I'm making mustard and turnip greens. All right, so we've got our mustard greens in the broth. Let's go ahead and get a spoon and get that mixed around. And so in this part of the recipe, right, it calls for the mustard greens to go in the broth, and then we're going to add bay leaves, and we're going to chop in some cilantro. But I'm going to wait with the cilantro. And the reason why I'm going to wait is because I love the fresh taste of cilantro. I don't like when it's been cooked in for a while because you can't really taste that flavor. So right now, we're just going to add in our bay leaves. And so I use the bay leaves that come from Whole Foods, the 365 brand. So I'm just going to add in, the recipe calls for 2. So I'm that kind of person. If it says 2, oh, look, I'm running out of that one. Let me get my other bay leaves. I always have bay leaves. But if a recipe calls for 2, I'll actually add more than that. So just kidding. Tonight we're going to use Trader Joe's version of bay leaves. There's no difference, really. It's just, one company to the next. So we're going to add in That's a smaller one, so I'm definitely going to add in more than 2. And sometimes bay leaves are a bit, they're broken up sometimes, depending on what's going on with them. I'm trying to get like a whole piece here. Oh, there's one. And we'll do that. So technically right now we have about 2.5 bay leaves, if not a little bit more. And if you can see this here, like we added in the greens and they're already in the process of kind of cooking themselves down. So that's cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer these greens over to another eye so we can then focus on other things if we need to use this eye at some point. So let's turn off this eye so I don't burn myself. God bless. And we'll put that over here. So we've got that going and doing this thing. So now we're going to focus on the tofu. So with the tofu, let me put this here. With the tofu, I wanted to do this in real time because the last time I did this, when I made tofu with you guys, I already had it seasoned and I had it already in the stove. I believe that's how I did it. But I'm going to show you what I do because sometimes people don't realize with tofu, you don't have to do the whole press down and all that stuff. And that takes a long time with like prepping for mealtime with your family, you know? So it's more so making sure that, you know, you have everything like the oven going and you actually season it well, and then you can throw it in the oven for a while. And what that will do, it'll dry out that tofu, and you can then not worry about that whole process of like pressing it down to get all the water out and all that crazy stuff. So basically, I'm just cutting this tofu. I've cut it in. Let's see, I'll bring this over a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. So this is basically a block of tofu, and I've cut it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like kind of like long, like rectangle situations here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it, hold it on my hand, hold it together, stand it on top of that way, and then cut it down like this. I'm using I'm using like a steak knife to do this. I find it easy to do that. Now hold it together. We've cut it in the middle, hold it together, and then flip it this way, right? And it might do some weirdness, but as long as it kind of stays together, it's fine. And then you're going to cut it to where you have like chunks. Just creating chunks like this. We have a little bit of a green edge there. It'll be fine. All right, so there's that. Now let's get a bowl. And we're going to season the tofu, okay? Now the recipe calls for olive oil. I have grapeseed oil. Olive oil or grapeseed oil will do just fine. This recipe, and I'll share all of the information that is in the cookbook about what is required. Some of the things, like some of the seeds, like the cardamom seeds and all that, I don't have that. I have actually cardamom, the powder. And so we'll see if next time I should incorporate that going forward. But if you don't have all that, have no fear, I don't have it either. So we're in good company. All right, so we've added in I'm going to grab the line. Don't do that. I'm going to add in a little bit of grapeseed oil. Y'all know I'm not a measurer. Just however my heart feels that it's time to stop. But I will share the exact measurements for you all because I know that's because I want you to make sure you actually are able to follow along with me. All right, so it's funny because with the tofu, it's basically just saying for that we can add in the oil like I just did and sprinkle some salt, and then we'll put it on, we'll line it on a baking sheet, and that's that. So that's pretty simple. So tonight I'm going to use, so it calls for traditional sea salt. This is a Himalayan salt I'm using tonight, so we'll use that and go from there, okay? All right, so let's get this. Got a little bit of situation there. All right. All right, so basically we're trying to add in some salt. Now this recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon, but like I said, y'all know how I roll. So I'll do it until I feel like, yeah, that's about it. And that looks about right. What I am going to do, because I am Alicia, I'm going to add in a little extra razzle dazzle. I'm gonna put in a little black pepper. I love black pepper. And this recipe does call for black pepper, but it calls for it at another time. What do I do at the top? There we are. So we're just going to mix this up a little bit. You want to be a little careful with tofu. You don't want to get too rough with it because this is the extra firm rather. I didn't even share that with you all. I broke the container, but it's basically an extra firm tofu. Ooh, I'm dropping juice on me. Extra firm tofu that I use, and it doesn't matter which company. This company that I'm using, I believe it's called House Foods, but you can get tofu, at pretty much any grocery store. I would encourage you to get the ones that say non-GMO. So I'm trying to, eliminate as much over, processed and things that aren't as natural as possible. All right, so I'm gonna do that. Actually, what I'm gonna do too, because I am me, I'm gonna add a little garlic powder, because why not? Garlic is always fun and a great addition to things. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna move this back, y'all. I'm gonna move the action camera back to where it normally is, so we can get into the stove. So I'm gonna get my wife, because she is a chef. She has all these fun little things, and so we're gonna put this on a cookie sheet. It's basically like it's kind of like what you would use like a parchment paper, but this is like reusable. So we're gonna add this to the cookie sheet here. And then we're just gonna toss the tofu. Y'all can see that we're gonna toss the tofu right on here, okay? Just gonna make sure, luckily we don't have a lot of juice, so that's good. And we're just gonna toss it on here just like that. And then we're just gonna spread it out, okay? We want everything to cook individually. Some of these chunks didn't get cut properly. And if you see that happen to you, you just, voila, there it is, done. All right, cool. So we're gonna spread these out as much as we can. Make sure it's a little even. Like I said, spread it out all across. If you don't have this reusable baking sheet apparatus, what is this thing called? Silicone what? Oh, so if you don't have a silicone baking mat, that's basically what this is. You can use parchment paper. It does the job. All right, so we're just going to add this right on into the stove. And let's see how long it says to cook this. So it says to cook this about 15 minutes. So I'm going to actually put a timer on just so we know and we don't forget about it, right? All right, I'm going to turn the light on so I can take a look here and there to make sure everything is good. All right, so we got that going. Yay. All right, great. So let's see here, friends. Get ourselves together. I'm going to put some things away so I don't have too many things going on here. All right. So just so you guys are aware, as we're cooking things, that's when while we have a little bit of time, I'm going to show you some of the ingredients that we're going to be incorporating into the broth, right? So I have in here, this is 1 whole onion and about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic that I've chopped up really coarse. Nothing too crazy. But like I said, 1 whole red onion. The recipe calls for a white onion. It's up to you. I love red onions. I love the flavor of red onions. It's so good. But it's up to you, like I said. So an onion, whichever one of your choice. And I said 4 or 5 cloves. The recipe calls for, honestly, 2 cloves. But I love garlic. So there you go. Right? It also calls for a jalapeno. And I've chopped up the jalapeno really fine. I removed the seeds and the core in the middle because that's where the heat is really. It's still going to have a little bit of a kick, but that's where a lot of the heat is in a jalapeno, is in that middle. So I definitely made sure that was removed because I don't need any problems for real. All right. So we have all the main things that really need to be in the oven, and also the greens that are cooking. So those things are actually going. So let's see now here. So everything else we're going to add to a saucepan. We're going to saute the onions. We're going to actually add in the peanut butter and all that stuff in a saucepan. And then we're going to pour it into the actual pot here once we have a chance. All right, so let's get going here. So now I'm just going to take this actual pot here. I just want to make sure I knew what I was talking about. Oh, there, the action's right there. Cool, there. Oh, cool. All right. So I probably shouldn't have done that. We'll turn that on so we just had some water dipped in there. So let's get rid of that. We're going to heat that up. We're going to add just a little bit of grapeseed oil. Okay. And then we're going to just saute the onions and garlic. We're going to add in the peanut butter and the tomatoes. So it asks for stewed tomatoes. I'm just using these diced fire roasted tomatoes, 1 can. And we'll go from there. And I'll actually look and see, because we might need more than 1 can, because it looks like the actual ingredients may call for that. Let me just verify and make sure. No, it just says 1 can. But like I said, I'll look and see, and you can even check with your actual recipe and see if this is something that is useful or not, with you adding more than 1 can. But just eyeball it and see. But if you're someone who is still, learning how to cook and all that, definitely follow the recipes and, go from there. I'm a tomato person, and actually tomatoes, things like that are, for my family, I'll say, or mainstays. Like, we love adding tomatoes to be a base to a lot of foods that we ate. So now you can hear the oil kind of power, and I turned it down a bit. So we're going to add all that in there. Okay. And get this going here. So here we are. So that's the onions and the garlic, sauteing that right now. Turn it back up a little bit. I'm not going to allow it to get too, let's bring it just a little bit closer so y'all can see. If you can say, actually, it's better if I keep it there. There you go. There it is. So yeah, so the onions and garlic are doing their thing, right? And we're going to start adding in all the seasonings. So we're going to add, and this smells amazing. So I have ground cardamom. It also asks for the seeds as well. Like, you'd have to toast them and all that. This is us cooking really quick. So I am not going to do all that, because my goal with this actual cooking class is to show you how to make things as quick as possible, so you don't have to spend so much time in the kitchen. This is brand new. Just going to open that up a little bit. Get this going. So this is the cardamom. It's a really cool flavor. I mean, smell rather. The fragrant smell. It really smells really good. I'm going to add a little bit of that. Get that on top there. And like I said, I'll share the actual measurements of what you should be putting in. So you can watch me put it in. But like I said, if you're somebody who wants to follow the instructions, please, by all means, do that. This is ground ginger that I'm adding in. A lot of these flavors and seasonings are things that are African-based. And I love that, that we have this opportunity to share so many different spices. Y'all, if I can smell this, it smells amazing. So we just added in the cardamom and that. Also, chili powder. Add in chili powder. Like I said, I'll share with you all. Turn it down a bit. Turmeric, if you can see that. Added in some turmeric as well. I think it's more for the color for me. Now, we do have, surprisingly, in my favorite seasoning ever known, every day, we do have the mustard seeds in this. So it has a lot of other seasonings as well. This seasoning here from, at Trader Joe's, literally, as y'all know, for those who have seen me cook on Mondays, know that I use this in literally everything. Because let me read to you what's in it. Sea salt, mustard seeds, black peppercorns, coriander, garlic, onion, paprika, and chili peppers. You can't go wrong with that. Seriously. So we're gonna mix that in a little bit and make sure. Oh, and cumin. That's the last seasoning. Like I said, I'm gonna add all this stuff so you guys are aware. Add just a little bit, not a ton of that. All right, let's put that back. Let's kind of give me some space here. We got a lot of stuff going on. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add in the tomatoes. Okay. Y'all, this smells so good. It really, really does. All right. So I don't think, let's see how long it says to cook this. All right. So it says cooking for about 20 minutes, and that's because they were adding in the seeds. But because we're not adding the seeds, we don't have to worry about that, y'all. So I'm going to get whoops, I just dropped that. Look at it. Let's see. Do I have a tablespoon? Oh, here we go. All right, I just dropped this thing here. Let me pick this up. Oh Lord. All right. Okay, so now we're going to add in, because for this dish, we're also adding, yeah, I wish I could smell this. Oh, smells tasty, Roo. We're going to also add in the jalapeno. So we're going to go ahead and add that in, okay? I need to rinse this spoon out. So I'm actually going to use this to, let's put all this here. I'm going to use it to put the peanut butter in. Yeah, that wouldn't be a good look for whoever comes to the peanut butter later on. It's pretty tragic. I'm not trying to have people out here falling apart. So, peanut butter wise, how much peanut butter are we actually putting in? It says put in a heaping tablespoon of peanut butter. So, I believe that's a heaping tablespoon. What do y'all think? So, let's go ahead and add that in. Right? I'm adding a little bit more. Why not? But for y'all that follow instructions, listen, I'm not mad at you. Do what you do. All right, so we're going to mix all this together and let it do its thing. Now, I have heard of, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I've heard of different peanut butter stews. I've never tried it, but so many people tell me about peanut butter stews, and I'm hoping that this has a similar outcome where I can taste that peanut buttery flavor, and we'll go from there. I have to admit, tonight I was going to make a cornbread, but I am tired. I've been working a lot, y'all. I made cornbread the last time for the chili night, but tonight we're not going to do a cornbread with this, but maybe the next time I make this, I'll let y'all know about it and share with you how good the cornbread was, right? So I believe we are all set with this, right? Let's put the peanut butter away. And then now we're going to check in on, let's put this on low heat. Let it do its thing for a bit. Set it there. Very low heat, just let it kind of simmer. And let's check in on the greens, because we've kind of let them go rogue, right? They're just doing their thing over here. Let's check out how they're doing and what's going on there. Let's see, guys. What do we have here? Can you see it? Let's turn it this way so you can see. Cool. All right. So the greens are looking great, actually. And technically, They have been cooking for about the time frame that was suggested anyhow. And it smells actually really good. I wish you could see it. The steam actually smells some because and the greens look amazing. So that's good to see that they are doing their thing. All right, cool. So, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and chop up the cilantro. And like I said, cilantro, for me at least, I prefer my cilantro to be put into dishes a little bit before I'm ready to serve it because of that flavor. I find that when I cook cilantro for too long, that fresh flavor that you get from it, it's lost, right? So always, if you are into that really fresh taste of cilantro, I definitely encourage you, I shouldn't say always, I would encourage you to put it in right before you are going to serve it, kind of let it heat up just a bit, right, to allow that flavor to come through. It just changes the whole flavor and taste of the dish. So, so good. So I'm actually going to cut up all the cilantro because I love cilantro. So it's basically like one little bushel. I guess we should call it a bushel, right? Is it a bushel? I don't know. Of cilantro. Let's put it over here. And I've mentioned this to you guys before, but I always compost food. So I have a little food compost over there. I will say about food composting, if you're interested in food composting, you should look into if your city or town has composting. Sometimes they have like a day where you can go like on a weekend sometimes like at a food co-op and you can send your scraps to, or you can take them over there and get them to those different co-ops. So definitely look into that. It's just a nice way to, you know, not waste that food and throw it in the trash. It can be used for all different things like fertilizer and things of that nature. So definitely look into that. Now with my compost, I put it in the freezer because what that does is it produces or actually eliminates that smell. You know, food after a while, if it's not, if it's out in the open and it's in the trash can, it is not the best smell, let me tell you. So if you are into composting, or if you're interested in composting, that's a quick tip for you. Freeze your leftover food before you take it to the compost, so your house is not smelling. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to set this cilantro to the side because we're still not ready for it, but I just wanted to have it chopped and ready to go. And like I said, I chopped the whole little bunch of the cilantro. All right, so that's our timer for the tofu. So I'm gonna take a look at the tofu and see how it's doing. All right. Rinse my hands off. Let's turn that off. I'm gonna look down here. So the tofu probably needs a little bit more time. Let me get some tongs. I'm gonna just flip them over. So you can't see it because it's in the oven. Unfortunately, me and my cameraman skills, it's just a one-woman show here. Yes, I'm gonna flip these over here so they're all evenly cooked. And like I said, this is a really quick way to actually, for those who like tofu, to use tofu rather, but are worried about all the fluid from it. You can just throw it right in the oven and it'll dry itself out. Really quick and cool concept, so you don't have to take all that time. Because with draining all that fluid, it just takes a lot of time. For those who have the time, that's great. But I normally don't have the time to do all that. So it's a quick tip with the tofu, just so you know. All right, so our peanut butter and our onions and tomatoes it looks awesome. I don't know if you guys can see that. Bring it a little closer, but it looks really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually transfer it over and then bring the big pot back over here. All right. So actually let's do one of these numbers. La and la. So that looks great. Let's turn this off. I don't need any problems. Please and thank you. And we're just gonna just add that right in. Okay. Cool. So this, for most of the dishes that I demonstrate with you guys, we're normally done in about 30 minutes or so. But I will say, even with what we've done so far, it's not taking a long time. And that is my goal, is to show you guys that plant-based cooking, even though I've never even made this, it's still not taking a ton of time, and it's doable. That is my goal, is to encourage people, I said, not only to eat plant-based, but to know that they can cook it, and it's not going to take their whole evening to get it done. So like I said, we're going to transfer that over, turn off that eye. We're going to actually just do the switcheroo here with the, don't try this at home, friends. So we're going to turn this back on. All right, guys, look at this. So we have added in the peanut butter. It smells amazing. All right, we're going to let that do its thing. Here's the deal. We're basically done with this dish. We just need the tofu. So I'm just going to let this continue to simmer. And we'll go from there. I'm going to add in our tofu. I'm going to give it another 15 on the timer. So basically, actually, let's not do that. Let's do 10. Let's do timer 10. I'm going to check it here in 10 minutes. Oh, that's not 10 minutes. Alicia. Timer. There we go. Now start. All right, let me turn this down a bit. So now I'm just going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes or so, about the time frame with the tofu. And hopefully by that point, oh, that's hot. Hopefully by that point, we can add in the tofu, and then I'll throw in the cilantro, and we'll be ready to go. So once again, I'm going to share all these recipes, all the ingredients of the recipe in the actual comments of this video, so you guys will know how to make this dish, just so you're not completely, left out and not knowing what I'm doing. But normally, like I said, I always share this stuff the next day. So look for that. I'll have a picture of my actual dish that I'm going to eat, and so you can see what it looks like plated, and then the ingredients will be there. I hope you guys enjoyed this actual segment. Like I said, I'm going to share all the information with you by tomorrow. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me in the group. I hope you all are well. Happy Black History Month, and thank you for tuning in for plant-based cooking this week. We made tofu curry and mustard greens. I love y'all. Bye.